In this video I want to show you the fastest way to perfect finger technique, absolutely zero bullshit, right to the point. Because when I started out playing, my wrist was not facing the fretboard like this, it looked a little bit more like that, and that was fine for playing my first minor pentatonic scales. I'm sure you're familiar with those. But as soon as I wanted to stretch a little bit more, I noticed that I couldn't really do that. But then by analyzing my favorite players, I realized I just have to position my wrist like this, and suddenly it gets very easy to stretch really far. So playing extended stretching licks like this was no problem at all. If I keep my thumb in this position and I'm descending in the scale, so from the highest notes to the lowest notes, from the highest strings to the lowest strings, I kind of have to rock my wrist back and forth in a weird way, and playing on the low strings right here feels completely different compared to playing on the high strings. And that's kind of a recipe for disaster. If you're going for a clean technique, you want consistent results, of course. So aside from moving my thumb down to support my fingers from behind the neck, I also learned that I shouldn't anchor my thumb in one position like this. Watch what happens with my thumb placement when I play through a scale on all the strings. I'm following my fingers. So when I was playing through the scale, I was following my fingers with the thumb, not just in this direction, so in a vertical way, also in a horizontal way across the neck. Because if you press too hard and if you anchor your thumb right here, for example, and you play here on the neck and then right here on the neck, it will feel completely different because you're not really supporting your fingers from the central point, especially when I'm using hammer-ons and pull-offs. I'm placing the thumb behind the area of my middle finger. That gives me the most amount of control. And you will also make sure that your grip isn't too hard or too tight, because you won't be able to follow your fingers if the grip is too tight. It will feel like your thumb is glued to the neck and you can't really move it. So that's the next tip, even when I'm playing very fast like this. I make sure that my grip is as relaxed as possible so that my thumb can follow my fingers and so that I'm not cramping up with my fingers. Because even with fast hammer-ons and pull-offs, it's not necessary to hammer on the neck like this or to pull off like this. Those are very small and controlled movements. When I started out, my pinky finger was always flying off the neck like this whenever I played a note. So there was a lot of finger movement with all of my fingers, but the pinky was the worst for sure. So one thing that I started doing that helped me out a lot was fretting chords like this. For example, this super basic E minor chord. And I was pushing down with all of my fingers like this. So if I would play these strings, these notes would ring out. For the next step, I would lift my fingers a little bit like this. So now, when I play these strings, there are only dead notes, but the fingers are still perfectly positioned to play that chord. All I have to do is just gently press down like this. I trained myself to just press down with the one finger that I need for the one note that I'm about to play in the chord. So I'm keeping my fingers in position. It does not look like this, where I move the fingers in the right position after every single note like this. They are already hovering above the strings, kind of blocking the strings in this dead note position, and I'm just, for that one note that I need, pushing down with my index finger, then lifting it again, then pushing down with the ring finger, then lifting it a bit again, pushing down with the pinky, then lifting it a bit again, and with the middle finger as well, while all the other fingers stay in position. The last thing that's really important is a huge bad habit that almost all players develop at some point for some reason, me included, and it's always pressing down with the index finger because it's the strongest finger. So when you're playing a scale phrase like this that starts with the pinky finger, ring finger, and then index finger, most players press down really hard with the index finger for the entire duration of this phrase, simply because it doesn't have an effect on this note if that note is pressed down, right? So I'm pressing down with all of my fingers right here. And of course only this note rings out because it's the highest note that I'm fretting. But if you always help out your weaker fingers, like the pinky finger and the ring finger especially, by pressing down with the index, you will never develop proper finger independence because you won't really feel that one finger that you're using when you always press down with the index. And it will also be really hard to sync up that kind of movement with your picking, because you never really feel those fingers individually and you don't let them work individually one by one. So if you want to play fast through scales like this, you will need to feel every single finger individually. And one more thing that's really important, that's often the cause for a lot of confusion, is what happens when you move higher on the neck with your fretting hand. Because as I'm moving higher, for example really high, when I'm playing right here, the way that my main guitar is set up with that bolt on neck right here, I can only move my thumb until right here. It's physically impossible to move it further. I would have to place it on the guitar and kind of on the screws like this. But that's no problem at all, because when I'm playing in higher sections of the neck, my thumb is moving a little bit to the left, so it's not necessarily always strictly behind my middle finger, simply because the frets get much smaller. So right here it's very easy and perfect way of playing for me when I have my thumb behind my middle finger like this. But as I'm moving up, it's moving a little bit to the left, simply once again because the frets are much closer together, but I'm still definitely following my fingers as I'm playing through the scale like this. And by routine and practicing over and over again, the thumb will automatically always be in the right position when you play across the neck. So I don't really have to think about it anymore. I just let it follow my fingers like this. And one more thing, the thumb over the neck approach is definitely not quote-unquote right or wrong. I still definitely use that one whenever I play expressively, so with string bending or with vibrato. Because I really don't like the sound of bending when the thumb is behind the neck and you just push up your fingers like this, or you just move your finger like that for vibrato. So for any kind of expressive playing, I definitely do use that thumb over the neck approach, and also for some chords in order to block the lower strings. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and if super clean technique is not your main focus and you just want to play some pentatonic licks here and there, you can definitely do it with that approach as well. But if you want to stretch and if you want to play clean arpeggios like that, for example, with no kind of string noise and at very high speeds, and if you don't want any technical limitations at all with your guitar playing, I really recommend the thumb behind your fingers approach for maximum control. So now, my friend, you know some important foundations when it comes to finger technique, but just watching this video is unfortunately not enough to get better at all this, because if you're practicing the wrong exercises, it will get you absolutely nowhere, even if you focus on all of these technical aspects. So all you have to do next is click the link down below, because I put together a step-by-step, super easy and fun roadmap for you, and this will take you day by day, step by step, through the absolute best exercises when it comes to correcting those annoying bad habits with your finger technique. I'm sure you have. So if you want your fingers super close to the neck, very fast, no string noise, 100% control, just click the link down below, get started with the 30-day challenge right away. I will see you over there. Have an amazing day. Greetings from LA and bye bye.